what I was trying to do is I just wanted to get, kind of a lay of the land, right? See what was, we hear, Jem talks about, Vanna and Charm come back from the beach and, all that. So do we have the tools to watch it? And I think the answer is yes. Vanna is, for the new folks, Vanna's a hard one to visualize. Because you don't normally visualize it in terms of strikes. Visualize it in terms of change of volatility. So if I were to, we have a version that has a little slider down here. It's not in production, but it's something that John created for me. And so you can select like -5 or -1%, 0, and then +1 or +5%. What you'll find, all it does is change the magnitude of the scale. It doesn't change the surface. There's a little bit of skew in it, but to the eye, it's irrelevant. And for the purposes of our discussion, it's irrelevant. So what's most important is on your screen, right? And so I ran this chart, and I think the question is what's happening when we run this chart? Now, this is run from Friday morning. And so obviously a lot happened on Friday, and so the picture will be changed if you run this now. But just, 0 was Friday morning. I ran it 21 days out, right? So enough to cover the monthly, which is coming up in a couple weeks. And that brings me to the point here. What are we looking at here? So this is just like a normal, left-hand plane, right-hand plane graph. We got the calls on the left. We got the puts on the right. In the money puts, in the money calls are green of some degree, and then the reds are out of the money. Puts on the right-hand side, calls on the left-hand side. One of the first things and the reason I called this out for everyone to look at, and I think this goes probably to the question, is that beyond roughly 7-8 days from when I ran this, so this is beyond next Friday, right? 7 days. You can see the Y right there, so 7.333. So that's 7 days from Friday. So next Friday. We lose a lot of stuff out here. Doesn't mean it's gone away, but when I turn this thing on its side, right? So I got just days to expiry here on the left, or from 0 right to left, excuse me, and then I've got strikes here. What you see, if we don't care about the strike, is that it's pretty clear that as I go out in time, I lose the impact of Vanna beyond a certain date. It's kind of the same thing, although I do have a spike here on the puts. It's kind of the same thing. And to me, that's what I wanted you guys to see, is that beyond this Friday, there's a little bit of something here. And so if we were to stay at the spot price, and of course we went up Friday, but if we were to stay at the spot price of 43.17, then we're going to be adding deltas due to volatility due to Vanna. Even if volatility remains constant. Now, we know it went down, so it actually got amplified. And these got amplified below us, too, by the way. But remember, these are in-the-money calls, and so they're already pretty big. But this stuff out here is going to have an impact because these are out-of-the-money calls, right? And so if you decrease volatility and you couple that with an increase in Vanna, which is a change in delta due to change in volatility, you're going to magnify the impact of deltas on those out-of-the-money calls. And that's important, right? So that's kind of, it makes our book longer, the dealer's book shorter, and all things considered. The impact on the dealer is we now start putting some upward winds in their sales. And that's, pretty much what we're seeing here, right? That type of behavior. Now, same thing here on the put side, very little contributions here. We've got some that are still in these out of the money puts, but as we move up, we're just effectively getting further and further and further away from some of these spikes that are over here back in this area. And so their contributions to those out of the money puts as we move up as a percentage of the deltas are going to be less and less as we get further and further away from them. So because, frankly, those the OI surface that we were talking about earlier, and the contributions from this is going to be pretty minimal. So I think, the takeaway from running the Vanna charts is I was trying to answer the question, Jem always says, we're Vanna and Charm are returning from the beach. I think it might come a little earlier than expiry week. I think it might actually start fading earlier in the week based upon what we're seeing right here. Now, I don't know this, and we should probably run it again just to and keep an eye on it. But not seeing big spikes tells me, something is going on. So we should probably keep an eye on it. But we often get, or not often, we frequently get questions at least once a week. Can we look at Charm? Can we look at Vanna? And the answer is yes, you can. And this is the $Van. And if you run it with the end van, you get the composite of that. And I'll go over to a charting channel and do that right now. Charting 3. So here's van, and then I'm going to run end van so that we're effectively creating new data here. So I'm up in charting 3, bronze charting 3, and you'll see these spit out as soon as the mice wake up and do what they do. So Michael, I don't know if that answers the question. I'm not actually looking at the questions right now.
Yeah. I think you covered it pretty well.
All right.
From my point of view.
All right. Yeah, we'll see what we get here in a second. Things slow down a little bit when we're not in the live API. We're having to go blow the dust off of the database. Here we go. All right. So this is the same chart run tonight. And what we would expect to see is, now instead of being 7 days out, these are going to be close. Of course they are. They're 4 days out. Makes sense. Scales are the same. We moved up, which is why it's not balanced. I use the exact same command so you can see the impact. What happened? We went from 43.17 up to 43.64, right? Instead of that, we have that, and that's why this line moved up, because that's the spot price. So that's that. And then if we look and have a composite this, and probably should run it again though with maybe a little higher, 4,500 or something like that, so you can see we can get a lay of the land all the way on up. But yeah, so that gives you kind of the idea of, I don't know if there's any other questions on Vanna, feel free to ask, but it was, like I said, it was our attempt to bring a little bit of clarity into how you could do this. The next question is always, so what? Well, when you see the surface, if you're moving down, you're going to be subtracting deltas. If you're moving up, you're going to be adding. And if you, like I said, if you're decreasing volatility, it has an impact on Vanna. If you're increasing volatility, it has an impact on Vanna. So just knowing how it plays with that can be useful. But Vanna and Gamma and Charm are second order effects. Delta rules the roost. You gotta know the delta surf, or you start playing with any of these Greeks. So anybody who relies exclusively on Gamma, Charm, or Vanna is missing big part of the puzzle. Because the risk is in deltas. It's not in Gamma. I mean, there's Gamma risk, there's Charm, etc. Delta risk is what dealers feel. So this is basically telling us, we can again look here, put it on its side, looking out in time, and you can see 4,300 to the downside. This 4,450 to the upside is where this big spot is up in this area. And then we've got this, but it gets pretty quiet, right? It's all things considered. We get into the week of expiry. There is some stuff here, especially for the SPX, but it's not as noisy as next week's going to be. So I think that's the option.